We are tribal. Every people on Earth is tribal, and we always have been. Forget this driven agenda by people like Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, and Yuval Noah Harari. Yuval Noah Harari openly criticizes nationalism, advocating for a globalist identity beyond nation or ethnicity. Just look how that's working out for the UK. The Scythians, the Mayans, the Ainu, the Celts, the Himba, the Sarmatians, the Polynesians, to name a few. Different lands, different gods, different DNA, same law of nature, tribe first, tribe forever. Certain governments, globalist NGOs, and unelected elites are desperate to convince you that you're just an individual, a blank slate, with no history, no tribe, no roots. They all push the same script. Forget who you are, forget where you came from. You're a consumer, not a citizen, a unit, not a people. This is because atomized people don't fight back. They don't form bonds, they don't defend anything, they just obey, and they are weak when atomized. Yet everywhere else in the world, people are allowed, even encouraged, to honour their tribe. And rightly so. That's what real diversity looks like. Distinct peoples in their own countries, living by their own customs, flourishing as tribes. That's what makes humanity fascinating. That's how we learn from each other. The Maasai still dance in their red robes under the African sun, proud of every ritual, every scar, every ancestor. The Apache still tell their stories around fires, still carry the pride of Geronimo. The Jews, they have an entire state built around their tribe, their faith, their survival. What makes them a people? A shared language, shared ancestors, a shared history, ritual, myth, struggle, pride. And us? We're told we're individuals. This is clearly nonsense. Our tribes go back thousands of years. Recent genetic research has provided compelling evidence linking the ancient Minoans and Mycenaeans to modern Greeks, showing continuity of tribal European civilizations. Their writing system was called Linear A and is still undeciphered. Unlike the Rosetta Stone, which unlocked Egyptian hieroglyphs by giving scholars a known Greek translation, no such key exists for Linear A. We have no bilingual inscriptions, no decipherable bridge between their language and ours. That makes direct comparison impossible. But that's also what makes it so fascinating. If Linear A is ever cracked, it could explode what we think we know about the origins of our European ancestors and even Atlantis. They were the first literate Europeans. And their script might contain buried records of gods, laws, ancestral rites, an entire worldview predating Greece, Rome, and everything that came after. It's a sealed archive of our forgotten beginnings. So go on guys, give it a go. Maybe you'll be the one who cracks it and changes history, because someone will one day. They were master traders connected to Egypt, the Levant, Anatolia, shipping goods across the Mediterranean, and for most of their reign, their cities weren't even fortified, because nobody dared attack them. That's how dominant they were. But due to earthquakes, pressure from the rising Mycenaeans, and possibly the eruption of 𝐼𝐸𝐴. And by 1200 BC, it was over. The palaces collapsed, administration failed, and their written language vanished. But the DNA didn't disappear. It flowed into the Mycenaeans, into the Greeks, and into us. The first advanced civilizations in Europe have ancestral links with modern Europeans, including the British. These Bronze Age peoples carried Y-DNA haplogroups like J2, G2A, and R1b, the same R1b lineage that dominates Western Europe and is especially common in the British Isles. Their maternal DNA also aligns with haplogroups still widespread across Europe, including in modern populations of Greece, Italy, and the British Isles. The Minoans were a foundational European tribe, and proof that our people, even 4,000 years ago, were building civilizations, preserving our ancestral heritage, and we were tribal. National identities played the primary role in this. From the primordial fires of the first clans to the thrones of kings who carved law into stone and land into nation, man has never stood alone. The myth of the isolated individual is a disease of modernity. Reality, eternal, unbroken reality, is tribal. The Natufians, the Göbekli builders, the Cucuteni, the Scythians, the Samaritans, the Celts, the Indo-Europeans, not merely a people, but a force. Riders from the steppes who bore with them the axis of our world, the seed of language, the fire of myth, the blood that would forge nations, the Germanic tribes, the Brythonic Britons, the Saxons, the Picts, the Gaels, the Normans, the Danes, the Franks, the Russian, the Highland clans, and now us. We did not survive because we chased comfort. We did not endure because we adopted the language of our enemies. We stood because we stood together, not as abstract fragments, not as consumers or individuals, but as the living embodiment of a higher law, hierarchy, loyalty, sacrifice. A tribe does not persist by accident, nor does it endure by sentiment. It stands because it holds to its essence. Shared language, shared heritage, shared gods, a memory deeper than history, and a purpose higher than survival. To be tribal is not to look back with nostalgia, it is to accept the duty placed on you by those who came before. You are not a moment, you are a chain, and if you break, everything breaks with you. When others fled into atomization, we remembered who we were, and we chose to remain vertical, unyielding, eternal. People must have a tribe. Experiments conducted over many years by social psychologists have revealed how swiftly and decisively people divide into groups and then discriminate in favour of the one to which they belong. E.O. Wilson, a renowned evolutionary biologist. When we talk about human nature, the real kind, not the kind they push in classrooms or corporate seminars, evolutionary biology makes it very clear. Our ancestors' survival depended on strong in-group cooperation and loyalty. Traits like altruism, courage, and above all, group cohesion were all essential. They helped tribes compete for resources, defend against threats, and basically stay alive. Over time, those traits became embedded in our genetic code. The term for it, parochial altruism. When individuals exhibit selfless behaviour toward their own group while being suspicious or even hostile toward outsiders, this is an evolutionary strategy because the tribes who protected their own, who have tight bonds and a shared sense of identity, are the ones who promote group survival generation after generation. Archaeological and genetic studies show it clearly. Early humans were in constant intergroup conflict. This reality reinforced tribal behaviour because only the tribes with internal loyalty and external toughness made it through famine, disease, and war. So this is literally written into our DNA. If you feel loyalty to your people, if you feel an instinct to protect your own, that's not hate, that's not backward, that's nature. That's memory, that's survival, and once you go against the natural order of things, nature will destroy you, or the people pushing the individualist ideology will. Epigenetics, the study of how behaviours and environment can cause changes that affect the way genes work, shows us further insight into our tribal tendencies. Environmental factors such as stress or trauma can lead to epigenetic modifications that influence behaviour and can be passed down to subsequent generations. A groundbreaking study led by Professor Ripon Malhi from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in collaboration with Alaska Native communities has provided compelling evidence linking historical trauma to epigenetic changes and, by extension, to the biological roots of tribal identity. Published in the International Journal for Equity in Health, the research focused on 117 Alaska Native individuals from 2 regions, examining how experiences of historical loss and trauma are associated with DNA methylation patterns, specific chemical modifications that can influence gene expression. The study found that participants who reported more intense symptoms of distress when reflecting on historical traumas, such as colonization, forced relocation, and cultural suppression, exhibited distinct epigenetic markers at 5 CPG sites. This shows that the psychological impacts of collective trauma become biologically embedded, reinforcing that the experience of being torn from one's tribe, one's ancestral structure, has measurable generational consequences. Importantly, the research also highlighted the protective role of tribal identity and continuity. Participants who strongly identified with their Alaska Native heritage and actively engaged in tribal and cultural practices reported better overall well-being. These results show something that nationalists and traditionalists have long understood. Cultural and tribal belonging isn't optional, it's essential. It forms a buffer against fragmentation, alienation, and decay. This study adds to a growing body of evidence indicating that the legacy of historical trauma can have lasting biological effects, and that the healing power of tribal cohesion, ritual, and shared ancestry is symbolic and physiological. It affirms that human beings are not meant to live as atomized individuals, we are tribal to our core. And when that tribal structure is violated, it leaves scars deep in the genome.